welcome back to another episode of the Mindset Map podcast. Today I want to talk about one of my favorite topics, and that is confidence. But more specifically, I want to talk about the 5 common myths around confidence, because I do think there is a lot of misconception as to what confidence is, what it means, how we get it, whether we've got it or not. And I just want to bust out some of those myths with you quickly this morning. So let's just dive straight in with my first confidence myth that we want to bust. And that is, number 1, the myth is that people are born confident. I don't believe this to be true at all. I believe that confidence is something that you learn and develop, and it comes in waves in different settings. Confidence is more of a feeling and like a pattern of behavior than it is a personality trait. It is something to do with what do we do and how do we show up in order that we feel confident. We talk about feeling confident. It's a feeling. It's not something you're just born immediately. Like if you went into a hospital where newborn babies were laying in these, we don't really have them so much these days. All the babies stay with their parents. But back in the day, there used to be a nursery where they take all the babies and they line them all up in their cots next to each other. And if you had these babies lined up, you wouldn't have, one baby just lying there going, woohoo, I am so confident. And then the one next to it just looking at it going, oh, damn, if only I was as confident as that baby right there. I wish I was that baby, because that baby's got confidence and I, unfortunately, was born without that. So, oh man, I wish I was like that. It just doesn't happen. It is something that we develop over time. Some people, I believe, develop it easier than others. I think for some people, it comes a little bit more easily, a little bit more naturally to build that skill. But it's all to do with, we're not going to go into this now, but obviously there's a lot of patterns and behaviors from our childhood and everything that leads to how we behave as an adult. So therefore, for some people, it's easier to feel more confident in certain situations. However, that doesn't mean that we can't all learn to be confident in the areas that we want to be confident in. We need to decide that it's something that we want to work on and decide that it's something that's important to us, and then put the work in. So of course, anyone can build that confidence. You just have to want to, and you have to be prepared to work towards it. So that is the first confidence myth busted out. We are not born confident. Let's forget that one. Okay, so let's move on to our second one. And the second one is that confident people are the loudest in the room. Now, I created a whole podcast episode just on this point alone, which was my last episode, which I'll link in the show notes if you haven't listened to it yet. But it really is just remembering that confidence is not loudness, that they're not the same thing. Some people can be super loud, super bright, but they are not confident at all. They are using that loudness as a mask for their lack of feeling confident inside. Other people feel super, super confident, but they're nice and quiet and chill and calm, and they're not shouting everything off. So just remember that is not what confidence is. Confidence is not about being the loudest person in the room. So the third confidence myth is when people tell me that they need to work on their confidence, often what they actually need to work on is their self-belief. And it's slightly different, because if we work on our deep self-belief, then that in turn allows us to feel more in control in certain situations. It allows us to feel more competent. And that means that we are able to sort of exude that confidence. We're able to feel that level of self-assuredness that helps us to move forward in that way. We can work on confidence skills in terms of how to appear more confident, and sometimes people do need that support as well. But I believe you have to do the other work as well, because if you just, use those skills that makes you appear more confident, learn how to speak better, work with a public speaking coach, learn how to stand, how to hold your body, what to do with your hands. You can learn all these things and they will make you appear more confident, but they don't make you feel more confident. If you want to feel more confident, you need to work on your own inner self-belief. So when you're thinking about that, and if you're saying to people, oh, I wish I was more confident, I need to work on my confidence, think about what it is that you actually really want to work what you really want to work on? Do you want to work on that deep sort of self-belief that feels maybe lacking in yourself? Or do you feel confident in yourself, but you just need to work on those skills and that techniques in order to be able to put your message across in a more confident way? They are two different things. So that's our third confidence myth. And the fourth one that I want to talk about today is that there's a myth around if you are someone who is putting yourself out there in some way. Let's say you run a business, you've got a social media account, public facing job, anything where you have to sort of speak to people, put yourself out there. There's this myth that like everyone expects you to be this super polished TED Talk version of yourself with every interaction that you have. And this is just not true. We must remember, unless we want to be a public speaker, an inspirational speaker, a motivational speaker, if you want to be one of these things, then by all means work on those speaking skills, because that is what's going to help you in that path. But most people don't want to do that. Most people just want to be able to talk to others, to share about their product, about their business, about their life, whatever it is that they want to share it within work, home life, personal life, whatever it be. Most of the times people just want to be able to share in a more confident way that feels more natural, they feel more inner belief. And so that does not need to be this polished, amazing public speaker version of yourself. So just remember that, and let's not set those bars so ridiculously high that we'll never meet there. You know, I work with people who, you know, they say they want to work on this confidence, and we work through things, and then they do, let's say, an Instagram live, and they maybe fluff over some of their words, and they and ah a lot and do all these things, and then they beat themselves up afterwards and get really frustrated and say, oh, I've been working on this, I'm working on my confidence, and I still did this. And I'm like, yeah, so what? You know, who expected you? Who said you had to be this amazing, polished speaker version? You know, that's not always needed. That's not always what's needed. And sometimes by being more natural, by being more honest and raw, it can be more relatable. So if you are someone who isn't putting themselves out there as a public speaker, then maybe it works to have a bit more of a natural approach to your talks. If you're going on live or you're going on your stories, you know, people will probably relate to you more if you don't try to portray this like super polished version. So that is the fourth confidence myth busted. And my fifth and final confidence myth is that people sometimes believe that confidence is a sign of competence. Let me say that again. Confidence is a sign of competence. And we all know, if we think about it really deep down, we know that's not true. That is not true at all. We can appear confident. I could go into a room and give a talk on something that I know absolutely nothing about. If somebody gave me a script for me to learn and I could learn it, and I worked on my presentation skills and I developed how I was going to stand and how I was going to hold myself and what I was going to say, and learnt that script within an nth of my life, I could perform it like the actor that I know I could be, right? And I would appear confident and I would come across as somebody who was confident. But am I competent in that area that I'm talking about? Not at all. Not at all, because I haven't studied it. I'm not an expert. I haven't learned anything about it. I've just learned a script and I've presented it in a confident way. So please, I really want everyone to just remember that when you see somebody who is appearing confident, please don't take that as a sign that they must be competent and they must be an expert and they must know what they're talking about, because anybody can speak confidently given the right training and the right practice. That doesn't mean that they know what they're talking about and that they have a level of interest and understanding in the subject they're talking about. So please, if you remember nothing else, remember that one. So there we have it. Those are my 5 confidence myths busted. I hope that helped. If it is something you want to work on, that deep self-belief piece, or indeed just those real practical tips and tricks of how to appear more confident, whatever it is that you feel that you do need to work on, then, you know, always come chat to me over on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. I'd love to hear from you, and we can certainly work through all those things. But please don't believe that it's something you're born with. Please don't believe that confident people are the loudest in the room. Please don't always just assume it's confidence you need to work on, when sometimes it might be self-belief. And don't forget that everyone does not expect you to be a super polished TED Talk speaker. And finally, don't forget that confidence is not a sign of competence. So those are my 5 confidence myths, and I will see you next time.